right. Hi, welcome, Tori. Thank you for coming. My name's Ashley, and I'm going to be interviewing you today on your opinions and ideas around overall wellness. It's part of the overall wellness campaign with the Yukon government. And so I'm glad to have you here. Welcome.
Thank you.
So give me a little background on who you are and what you do.
My name's Tori Holmes. I grew up in Dawson City. I was born and raised there on the traditional territory of the Tronic-Wichan. And I'm very close with everybody there. Grew up in a very small community. I'm the oldest sister. After I graduated, I went to University of Victoria for a little stint, and then I decided to come home, work for the local First Nation in Dawson City, and then I moved to getting my Indigenous governance degree from Yukon University.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And so are you in Dawson or you're in Whitehorse?
I'm located in Whitehorse now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm also a Tronic-Wichan member, but I moved out of Dawson. My family moved us out when I was like about 10, I think.
Okay.
So now I just go back and sit with the aunties and laugh on the porches, like Mabel and Sheila.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they're my aunties. So when we go
Okay.
there, it's just like the whole time we're just laughing.
That's so cute.
They're the cutest, funniest little
Aw. Aunties.
Yes, definitely. I always have a great time when I go back home for visits. What do you love about living in the Yukon?
I love the connectivity. I love that there is a circle of respect and reciprocity and relationality that's always being exercised with everyone. Everyone knows everyone. I was having a conversation with my friend the other day about the 7 degrees of separation, and we were talking about in the Yukon how there's kind of only 2 or 3 degrees of separation. And I think that really brings a specific kind of power to our community. And that's what I love about it. When you come home and you land off that plane and you step on the ground, it really feels like your feet belong where they are.
Yes, I love that. That is so good.
Yeah.
It's that strong sense of community and knowing and trusting that that you have that to come home to, like you said, right? Despite what's going on in the world or where you left the big city or this or that you can come home and feel safe and trusted and be a part of something, you know? And yeah, I love that.
I love it.
What does wellness mean to you overall? Holistic wellness.
Holistic wellness to me means an overall balance of every aspect of your life. So when I was in school, I took a course on community wellness, and our instructor was actually Marilyn Jensen. She had us fill out a wellness wheel that was like work, school, personal life, fitness, eating, nutrition, and stuff like that. And that means to maintain, so wellness to me means to maintain a balance within that circle, to make sure that you're dividing your energy up appropriately and you're not giving too much of your energy to one spot. Yeah.
Oh, and in what ways do you do that? Do you have any ways or advice that you could give for other people to see that as kind of like in that maybe medicine wheel or circle, like, you know, the whole system kind of as a whole? And
sometimes being in the Yukon is interesting because you're so connected to your community and you have so many friends that you are not alone oftentimes, or you develop a thing where you don't really like being alone. And I really feel that. I don't really like being alone, but through COVID and being forced to be alone, I've really developed a sense of being able to be by myself. I've learned a couple of things about myself that I really like to do. I've started a couple of new hobbies, and I think really just having some discipline and practicing those hobbies through mindfulness, practicing those hobbies, practicing self-care, practicing mindful eating, mindful working, mindful talking. I think that's a really big piece.
in what ways does living here in the Yukon help you with your wellness goals?
We have a vast untouched territory, so every day that I step outside I get to take a really big breath of fresh air, and I think that really grounds me in a very specific way. It's really easy to access nature off of that point. It's really easy to find a trail where your feet is actually hitting the ground, not the concrete. And through friends, many people that you know, that sort of keeps your wellness up. And then accessing nutrition can often be hard because there's not a lot of access to different foods, but when you live in the Yukon long enough, you're able to get creative and you're able to access some really interesting traditional knowledge on how to stay healthy and keep your wellness up that way.
Yeah.
And
food is a big one. Hey?
Yeah.
It's like, never mind the colorful 5% for humans, you should see the recipes that I created. It's like mid-December and it's like, what's in the back of the pantry?
Yeah, exactly. So
I need to keep my nutrition up, but like groceries are so expensive. And
some interesting noodle mousse dishes.
and you're like, I'm going to call this fancy ramen.
Yeah.
It's spam.
Yeah.
So sleep, nutrition, and exercise. Which of these do you do the best?
I do the best with sleep. I find that the sleep cycles that that nature offers us here, daylight all summer, it's kind of conducive to the life that we live in the summer. Everything's all hustle and bustle and really running around a lot. And then in the winter time comes rest time, and it's dark a lot of the time, so that like really facilitates my sleep schedule.
So you can just like nest up and you just get all cozy and you're like, hey, now I can rest.
Yeah. You know, when the air's a little bit cold in your house and you can bundle up in the
such a vibe
next to a fire or anything like that. Yeah.
Or even just like with some good old soup, like hamburger soup, and you just lay in bed and you're just
so true.
Right? Like, okay, let's go time. I want to get all cozy. Which of these do you think you struggle with the most, of the sleep, nutrition, and exercise?
I think one of the things that I struggle with the most is the nutrition. Although I am able to be very creative with my meals, the price of food really offers a large struggle, and it's easier now that I'm in Whitehorse because I have access to way more food here. But when I lived in Dawson, it would oftentimes look like walking in the grocery store and seeing a stack of green peppers, and that's the only thing in the produce aisle, and you having to come up with a way to incorporate green peppers into your meal.
Yeah.
So I think that is the thing that I struggle with the most. But again, that's often mitigated by the amount of like game that we have here, and the amount of berries that we have here and other traditional medicines.
So like harvesting as much as you can, like you said, in the hustle and bustle months, and kind of we're like little chipmunks and store stuff away. So in the cold late months we can fall back. I do a lot of dehydrating and food preserving.
Cool.
Yeah, and like stash vegetables away. Like if you get them super discount, just cut off the little brown parts, slice them, dry them, and stash them away, and then you have some kind of vegetable for in the winter.
So true.
Do you have any advice that you could give to people on how that they can try to balance that out, and like if they know what their strong suits are, how to focus on the areas that they're not?
I think my advice would be to practice mindfulness, but to also practice mindfulness from a lens of self-reflection. It's really easy to do stuff in your own way, but it's hard to do stuff if you haven't created your own way to do that thing. So using other people's ways of doing things oftentimes isn't conducive to everybody's ways of knowing, doing, and being. So I would say, to practice mindfulness and self-reflection and really get in touch with yourself and find out what works for you. And when you find something that works for you, run with it.
Embrace it.
Yeah,
and it's also like just because something doesn't work for you doesn't mean that you're a failure, right? Or if it works for you for a little while and then you get triggered by something and then those practices don't work for you anymore, that doesn't mean you failed in your wellness journey. It just means you need to be self-aware. And say, I need to adjust my plan here. I would add self-compassion to that.
Oftentimes life can be really hard, especially with COVID, coming out of a post-COVID era, inflation, everything around us, constantly turning on the news, and there's bad, scary news out there. So really just exercising that self-compassion, like what you said, like when you fall, you're not falling, you're just tripping, and it's okay to get back up again and keep going.
Yeah, that's a good one. And sharing, like the elders always tell me that we need to share the load because it's heavy, and be open to allowing us to share. Giving that to other people and trusting that they're going to do the same when they're overloaded too. Why is being on the land important to you?
Being on the land is important to me because it allows you to ground yourself. It allows you to establish a reconnection with your space and your place. And it allows you, in reconnecting and grounding yourself within your space and your place, it creates a relationship with the land that isn't tangible but is very important to maintain as we move through into the future, where we're not sure what is going to happen to the land.
So it's kind of getting more into that mindset of being a part of the land instead of above it.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. I can relate to that.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite way to spend in nature, or something that's like your favorite thing to do, especially when it comes to wellness? If you're feeling overwhelmed or like you need space.
My absolute favorite thing to do is to pick berries.
Yeah.
I love to pick berries. I love the way that berry picking is so organic and natural, because when you're picking berries, you're following the berries. You're not following a specific path or anywhere. You kind of just put your head down and you get into the zone, and you maybe start over here and then you end up way over there, and you don't even know where you are, and you have to find your way back. And it's just during that process showing that you were somewhere and now you're somewhere else and you don't even know where you are, just really shows that how spiritual that process is, and that you've really taken some time for yourself and you've zoned in to yourself and what's going on. So my favorite thing to do is berry picking, and oftentimes when I berry pick, I lay down on the land and I pick all around me.
Like, you feel the moss and you just feel that energy.
It's just like, so cushy.
Yes,
yeah.
All those vibes. It's my favorite too.
Yeah.
Like, if I ever had a chance to go berry picking and I can just go lay in the moss and exchange energy with Mother Nature,
exactly.
That's important to me too. We know that there's everyday choices that we can do to keep us well. So what are some choices that you consciously make every day to keep yourself well in a holistic way?
Some choices that I cautiously make every day is I make sure to feed my body every morning something that will give me energy. So like typically a piece of fruit with some sugar in it, or maybe like I really love bagels and cream cheese, so that kind of feeds my spiritual energy because I love it so much.
Yes.
Or I go to Tim Hortons because that feeds my spiritual energy too. That's my happiness. So I make that choice just to really feed my body, and I also make a choice where to direct my energy. There's a lot of negativity in the world, and people spend a lot of time looking behind themselves, and it looks like a downward hill, but really people spend a lot of time looking up, and they look at the upward hill and how far there is to go, and they don't spend a lot of time looking back and seeing how far they've actually come.
So it's that reflection and self-awareness again, right?
Yeah.
That's very important. I agree. So that's, I guess, something that you choose to do often, is just try to remember.
I try to always remind myself every day. I saw a little quote on Instagram, and it was like, remember when you wished you had everything you have now.
Yes.
And that is something that I try to live by every day, to really appreciate how far I've come, because I have come so far and I have worked so hard to have everything that I have. But sometimes we forget. And then another one that I like to live by is think about how cool your 19-year-old self would think you are now.
Right?
Yeah. Like
she is such a...
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Yeah. And be the person that you maybe needed when you were a child.
Exactly.
Right? Try to emulate that into the world now.
Exactly.
Hold that safe space to make those connections and be that community member.
Yeah.
Because we're all part of a community, and be that person and that role model that you want others to emulate those values.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
That's amazing. Why is it important to you to protect your health and the health of others and people in your community?
It's really interesting because when we think about getting sick post-COVID, it's kind of really played down like you just get sick and you just get better. But as we've gone through COVID, we've lost a substantial amount of people and souls, and it's kind of rerouted our perspective that if you get sick, you might not get better. So when you overextend yourself or your wellness wheel is imbalanced, oftentimes your body will have less immunity, or it will shut down, you'll get burnout, and it'll give you red flags to stop doing whatever you're doing. And I think it's really important to listen to those red flags and those internal signs, because when you fall sick, others that depend on you are not able to depend on you in the same way. And that can mean many things. That can mean that you maybe can't pick up your grandmother's mail, but that could also mean that you got your grandmother sick and that she's not okay. So it's really important to take care of yourself, because individual empowerment is community empowerment. So when you empower yourself, you're empowering your community.
I agree. That's perfect. That's a good way to explain it. So how do you personally do that? How do you personally put in that effort to protect yourself and your community?
I do a lot of reading, on mindfulness, a lot of reading on burnout, signs of burnout and things like that. And I try to stay really attuned to my body if my body's giving me any signs of burnout, or try and develop that foresight into the future. If I say yes to all of these things, if I do all of these things, I will be burnt out. And really it comes down to, for me, to the sole practice of learning how to say no. Not in a mean way, just in a genuine way, to take care of myself. Because if, I'm sure we've all heard this, but if my cup isn't full, then I don't have anything to give anybody else.
Definitely. You can't give from an empty cup or a low cup, or
exactly.
So just maintaining your own health and your own wellness. What would you say to somebody who doesn't want to like miss work or a special event or socialize because they're feeling unwell? What would your advice be for them, or how does that affect you?
My advice would be, if you don't take time for yourself, you'll be forced to take time for your health. If you ignore your body's red flags and you ignore how your body's feeling, then that can have a lot of detrimental effects. And again, it comes back to individual empowerment. So if you're not empowering yourself as an individual, you're not empowering your community.
That's a powerful statement, because it's so true, because we are all a part of the same thing. And if your spirit's feeling weak and you're feeling weak and not doing, then you're not giving as much of yourself as you could be. We hear a lot these days about people staying home if we're sick. How can we make that easier to do? So what are some things that you would do, or advice you could give on if you have to stay home and you have to take care of yourself? How can you do that without it feeling like a heavy thing to do?
I think that's a really big question, because I think it kind of leaks into some systemic issues that we have. So oftentimes when you work in the public sector, not in an office job, so maybe at a daycare or maybe as a waitress, there can be a sort of environment created where you're expected to not miss work no matter what. And that sort of plays into people's own personal anxieties about missing work when they're not feeling well, and sort of lying and not being honest about not feeling well. So I think that really has to change. And one of the ways that I think that could change is through lateral kindness training, and through lateral kindness, mandatory lateral kindness being promoted in the workplace. And then another way I think that we can do that is, oftentimes when we get sick, it's so inconvenient because it disrupts our flow of our own personal finances. So implementing a reasonable amount of sick leave for McDonald's workers, Tim Hortons workers, daycare teachers, waitresses and waiters and jobs like that, I think is very important. I think there's a 10-day sick leave right now, but I don't think that's realistic. That's less than
the recovery time,
a day a month.
Sick once, even,
yes,
right?
Exactly.
So what happens if you get sick more than once in a year?
Exactly.
And you already only make $50,000 in a year.
Exactly.
The cost of living is $48,000 a year. You know.
So I think appropriate sick leave.
Is very important.
Sounds like that's something you're passionate about, have a strong voice in.
That's good. We need people that are willing to advocate that. So we have to wash our hands and do these routine things to keep ourselves healthy and protect others. Do you have any little rituals that you do? use like a scented soap or sing a little song when you have to wash your hands all the time, or you know?
I keep a little scented hand sanitizer in my car.
Oh,
And
they make scented hand sanitizer.
Yeah, Bath and Body Works.
Okay.
Yeah, really, really nice ones. And that's what I do every time I come back in the car. I just sanitize my hands. It's just good to reset yourself. And when you touch something cold, it's almost like, I want to say it's almost like smudging. You're kind of cleansing your spirit a little bit. So it's kind of nice to feel the cold hand sanitizer on your hands, and you're just like resetting yourself
It's
for
like
your
that
next
little
thing.
jolt.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just something a little bit cold.
Resetting your senses, kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
For me, I always have scented like the hemp brand lotion in all my bags, the little minis.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I just love a scented product because
Yeah.
my hands are dry from having to wash them all the time, and I can make it more enjoyable, but
Yeah.
are not such a nuisance.
Yeah.
You know, by having scented products that I enjoy smelling.
So
and that
true.
Just like are relaxing scents to me.
Yeah.
Is there somewhere that you routinely go that you wear a mask?
I would say somewhere that I routinely go is the airport. And I routinely wear a mask in there because there's a lot of people flying in and a lot of people flying out, and they've been exposed to a lot of places, and I don't really know where they've been. So that's specifically where I wear a mask. I also wear a mask when I go to larger stores like Walmart, Canadian Tire, Superstore, just because you're actually in contact with so many people. And during this post-COVID era, it really feels like people are forgetting that COVID is alive and well.
Definitely, and you don't know exactly who's been where, what their backstory is. So,
Exactly.
And like you said, we come in contact with so many people in those environments.
Yeah.
What about like community events and stuff that you take part in?
Community events, I do wear a mask. Oftentimes when I go to community events, it's requested that you wear a mask, so I do wear a mask just out of respect for everybody else. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's like another way that you practice protecting others.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about vaccination and your thoughts and opinions around being vaccinated.
I got vaccinated. I'm triple vaccinated. I'm looking forward to getting my 4th shot soon. I got vaccinated to protect others. I'm a young person, so I know that I could beat COVID because I got COVID before the vaccine came out, and here I am today. But it's really important to me to protect elders and more vulnerable people, especially people who actually didn't even have the option to get vaccinated. I really felt like being able to get vaccinated, especially as early as we got vaccinated in the Yukon, was a huge privilege. And the fact that it was free, I felt like also was a huge privilege, because sometimes when you go traveling, you have to pay for vaccines to go. And yeah, I guess my opinion on getting vaccinated is, at the end of the day, it's a shot and you take it and it makes things better. I think that a lot of people think that it's not a big deal to get COVID when you don't have the vaccine. When I got COVID without the vaccine, I was out for the full 14 days. I had a really hard time breathing, and I spent the full 14 days asleep. There was a period where I had gotten up and I had made a little bit of soup for myself, and I didn't even want to eat because I had lost my taste and smell. And the next day it felt like I had went to a hockey jamboree. After I had made some lunch for myself, it felt like I had been checked multiple times, and I was very humbled by that experience, and that really made me want to get the vaccine, because if I had ever gotten COVID a second time, I would never want to be that sick again. And I didn't want anybody else to contract COVID from me and experience that level of sickness, because it honestly is scary. I think
especially, you said you spend a lot of time with elders and stuff.
Yes.
So you don't want to put them through that.
I do
if
not.
It wiped you out
Yes.
for 14 days, and you brought up how you only get 10 days sick leave.
Yeah.
So you get COVID once and you're already over the amount of sick days you get.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it affects so much more than just
Yeah.
you're out for a couple days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What would you say to encourage others to keep their vaccinations up to date?
I would say that as we emerge into the future, as we continue on, it's important to just protect each other. Like I said, individual empowerment is community empowerment. So when you vaccinate yourself, you're really helping your whole community as a whole. And I would say that it's okay. It's just a shot.
Yeah.
And you can do it. And you can help the Yukon maintain our level of COVID that we're at now, which is pretty low.
Yeah, I think, yeah, and it's nice that we can trust that our community members are going to do their part to keep us safe, so that we can get to this point where our little community is hustling and bustling again.
Yeah.
People can make money.
Yeah, exactly.
And, enjoy each other's company and share energy. And all those amazing things that is so important to this area, you know? How do you prefer to stay digitally connected to family and friends if you are someone who has COVID or you're staying home to be unwell?
I prefer to stay digitally connected through Facebook.
Yeah.
I find that Facebook is the most used platform among older people, and a lot of my family are older, so I find that posting on Facebook, it just really gets the message out really easily, and everybody can see what I'm doing and comment on what I'm doing, and that's just a really good way to stay connected.
What about like in a personal level, like with like the close people in your life that you rely on for like support and wellness side of it?
I really just use my cell phone and keep that cell phone close to my body.
Yeah.
Texting and calling really comes in handy. I find that I have good service in the Yukon. Usually my service is better than my internet.
Yeah.
So yeah, just like quick calls to people, quick texts to people. I think that always helps. Sending a little message when you're thinking of somebody, receiving a message when they're thinking of you. I think that all really helps stay connected.
I agree. My siblings live in Alberta, and we'll be on the phone with each other while we're doing our like chores or just zoned out on the couch and just like, I need to decompress from the day. I want to go on a phone call. And just, even if we're like talking to our kids the whole time, it's just like as if we're sharing energy. You know? Even though we're not in the same room, or the same town even. Where do you think we can go from here in terms of looking out for ourselves and others?
I think that we've all learned a lot from COVID. I think we've learned that our lifestyle can change at a moment's notice. I think that we've learned to take care of each other, and I think we've all been able to take a step back and really assess what really matters in our lives. Sometimes pre-COVID, you get caught up in everything and you forget what truly fuels your wellness wheel and what truly feels good to you. So I think that's what we've learned, and going forward, I think it's just really important to continue to empower yourself in whatever way that means for you, and to continue to practice self-compassion and being really gentle with yourself as you continue to navigate a pandemic and continue to navigate the world, because we've never lived tomorrow. We've only lived today. So we don't have the knowledge of tomorrow. We only have the knowledge of today and the past, and just to really use that to our advantage.
Yeah, and this today has never happened before, right? We're in those hybrid times now where it's post-pandemic, but we still have to make choices that empower our community and keep everyone well.
Exactly.
Yeah, and ourselves well, like you said, being compassionate to ourselves. And is there any other things that you want to bring up, or any advice that you want to share with the community about overall wellness? And
I think I really just want to hit home that individual empowerment is community empowerment, and practicing self-care and self-compassion is a key to empowering yourself as an individual. And further to that, individual empowerment means reaching out to your friend and checking on them. It means picking up your mail for your grandmother. It means cat sitting for your friend. It means stuff like that, and that's important to not forget.
That's wonderful. That's beautiful. Yeah. So it's being an active member of your little community, and even small ways like that does make a difference, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. I'm glad we got to have this talk about wellness, and it's a really important topic, and we want to make sure that we get the voices of very, strong voices on wellness. So I'm glad that you got to come.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.